to another quick pass review, and we're a bit more up to date this week with the latest offering from Games Workshop. This is WarCry, the new Realm of Chaos skirmish war game. So what do we think of this? I guess the comparisons early on are going to be to Necromunda and also to Mordheim. So we're going to try and contrast and compare against those two games, as well as looking at it in its own right. And once again, these reviews are not focused so much on the game and the gameplay, but more on the production quality, the aesthetics, the lore, the overall view of the game based in the Games Workshop system. So straight into the box art, nice and clear at the top as to what the game is. So good visuals there. I really like the font that is being used, the arrows, which are very indicative of chaos, and we have a view of the main warriors. This guy in particular gets a lot of space in terms of coverage, and yeah, so here we go. So definitely a good theme here on the front. It's a little bit different to, say, the Carrion Empire box set, which I think was very specifically picking out a triad of colours. This seems to be far more uniform, just using everything on a light dark red scale, moving a little bit towards the yellows here, but really not too much. So it's very kind of uniform in its coloration. We can see the good effect of shadowing here, so it's more of a light dark contrast than it is across the colour palette range. It was actually the first quick pass review we did of the Carrion Empire, so go back and check that if you want to know a little bit more about colour palettes. One thing from a commercial perspective, I mean, as a starter set, I mean, this is big, right? This is chunky. So I don't know, is it going to put people off? I mean, it's a big box relative to the price, but to call something this size a starter set, I don't know, I'm not sure if that's really quite the right way to go about it. I wonder if it puts people off. Let's have a look at some of the sides. So once again, we get Mr. Old-fashioned diving bell helmet, although with that grate that wouldn't actually function too well at it. You get some more time. Oh, and he's back. And on this side, back again. So he's kind of the poster boy of WarCry, like literally in some cases. And here we have a look at the back. So initial views of this, not getting quite the same nostalgia hit as I do from some of their other games. Silver Tower in particular, I think, had a real nostalgia hit. I think this kind of fades a little bit into the background. It's not as good at a background picture as I think it could be, but it's quite good in terms of laying the contents out. I'd say that this was more functional, a background. It's more about kind of listing what's inside the box rather than particularly aesthetic in terms of trying to capture you with that real big hit that Games Workshop is so often good at doing, those kind of layouts. Now I don't know whether maybe it's just because of the board and the background. Everything seems to just fade into it a bit. It doesn't really stand out very much. Fair amount of text up here as well. I like the inclusion here, showing you the names of the warbands as well. I think that's very good. Good to show you some of the tokens. Good product placement. But yeah, not particularly grabbing. So in terms of the actual box quality commercially, yeah, I think they're missing a little bit there. So let's get the trusty clippers and open this up. So, first two things, initial impression, the wow factor when I take the lid off, and obviously the new box smell as well. That's quite good. It's nice and firm, nice and stiff, not really anything in there. And yeah, disappointing. Once again, just grey plastic. Really don't think they should be putting this at the top. Very similar to Carrion Empire. Good new box smell, slight aftertones which are a little bit acidic, a little bit plasticky. 7 out of 10 for the new box smell. Initially it's all very good, but yeah, there's a little bit of a weird after smell, a little bit gluey, but not like super glue, more of a like a gum post-it note sort of glue. Yeah, so onto the sprues. I mean, I'm not really expecting too much information for the sprues with regard to, I think the production quality for Games Workshop is just so high. It's almost, this is the least interesting thing part of the box. We know what we're going to get. Let's have a couple of look at things like where the joints are. So that's onto the arm, but that's actually onto a join. Generally you want the sprues to connect to the joins because they're easy to hide when you glue everything together. Everything's looking quite monopose at the moment. We've got a lot of the weapons connected. I'm guessing that's the person's arm for here, and we can see that zooms in, we can see a bit of moulding, so I don't think there's too much in the way of conversion options here. Not even in terms of weapon choice, but more posability. I have to ask myself, why would I get a second box? Really, we want to make sure that as many miniatures as possible are able to be put into different pose. So one of the differences I think between, say, Mordheim and Necromunda and WarCry is that WarCry units or models are kind of more complete models, so there's not really much in the way of weapon variation. I think we know that already from looking at the cards, that's no surprise. So I was very much expecting single weapons with regard to like single weapon options for the models, but I was hoping for maybe something a bit more multi-pose, so that if you did get a second box you don't have lots of repeat miniatures. These are some of the beasts that are included in it, I think. Yeah, so we've got some there. Interesting that we've got these kind of half sprues as well. They've actually chopped a lot of them down. Not sure if that was fully necessary, but I guess there's something in the production of it that makes that a necessity. Really liking these shields, I think they're very good. I have to say, sort of, I'm not really super interested in the aesthetic of either of these warbands. I think for me it's probably the Corvus Cabal, the Crows, who are my favourite and the ones I'm waiting for. These are very good, but one of the things I do like about the latest set of Chaos offerings is the aesthetic range is really wide. They've done a good job, like they did with Necromunda, of providing lots of different options for different people with regard to which aesthetic do you like. So the variation between the different Chaos factions I think is really good. More beasts there. And that's, I think, yeah, that's an identical sprue. I was kind of expecting identical sprues with the beasts. I don't think that's really a problem so much. It was more the individuals. Now I know it's more kind of leaders and fighters, so I'm not expecting the fighters to have huge amounts of variation, but a little bit would have been nice. And I'm not sure if we're going to get any of that. So that's, I think that's the miniatures of the models done, and here we've got some terrain. Wow. Okay, I've never really seen anything quite like this from Games Workshop before in terms of just like wooden walls. This is very kind of chaotic, very Northern Wastes type of chaos. Lots of ramshackle temporary buildings. With so much fighting going on in the Chaos Realms, And also due to the nature of Chaos itself, it seems a bit weird to have anything too permanent for too long for things that warbands of this size would be controlling. So everything's very temporary, short-term defenses before you move on for the next fight. I think the bigger you build it, the more people come along to smash it down. And we can see with lots of sort of ruins here that kind of matches really well with that aesthetic. Yeah, good quality, nice and solid. I think a lot of people already have been posting up some videos about making the terrain, so I think there is some good enjoyment in that. That is an identical one. And here we have a giant bell and some steps. Yeah, that's all good. I mean, it's always, I think terrain's always a little bit unimpressive on the Sprue. It's not until you get to take it out and put it together and you see the kind of the 3D-ness of it. I think that's when the terrain really starts to pop out, especially when it's well painted, which, like I said, we've been seeing a lot of really well painted terrain being put up as well. Definitely feels like less and less of an afterthought and more a core part of the Games Workshop offering. Not just in this box, but I think probably over the last year and a half. So yeah, good kit. Yeah, all to be expected, all nice, well made, nice and solid. Okay, so this is probably the most unusual of the sprues. This is very three-dimensional already, so we've got a bit of a statue going on. And yeah, it looks like this is where the skull, so that would be the hair, that's the ear, and then the face fits in there. Lots of good spikes. I'm really liking these spikes. For those of you that's played Vermintide, I think when you go through the skitter gates into the Northern Wastes and you start to see all these wooden buildings and sort of spiked up tree poles, very much in keeping with that. So yeah, the terrain, I mean, that's how much terrain you get in total versus the models. And this is 2 warbands plus the Chaos Beasts, so you can see a lot more weight with the terrain. Definitely a good focus of the box overall. Now we come on to, I guess, the rules and the rest of the contents to play. Okay, so very much like Carrion Empire, we have this nice sheet, a little bit folded in the corner already, so that's a touch disappointing. You can see we've got some marks here from where the sprues have been laying on top. I think that's probably going to always happen, isn't it? As the box gets moved around in transit, the spikes on the terrain is going to punch into that, but maybe a different order of terrain would be, and I can already feel actually it's gone through the other side. Yeah, this is a bit frustrating. Exactly the same comments as for Carrion Empire. I could definitely see, well, maybe not with the damage here, but I could definitely see myself getting, you know, a pretty cheap frame, and this would make a really good bit of wall art. Now, I know it's a replication of what's on the box, but for me, when you open the box, this is what you should be seeing. And it's coming through, especially when on camera, but there is a slight 3D effect here as well. Yeah, this is, but actually this guy, not so much off camera, maybe it's the angle I'm at. Yeah, okay, when I change the angle actually it does work out better. There's a really nice 3D-ness to this picture. Yeah, that should have been on top. Same thing as Carrion Empire. This is your wow factor, this is your art. As I said in that video as well, everyone expects grey sprues. They know what's in the box. The grey sprues by themselves are not impressive. There's no reason to put them at the top. And maybe it would have been a little less damaged as well if this was pressed up against the top of the box. So yeah, a bit disappointing that that wasn't given more focus. Right, so what do we have here. So this will be the board that we play on. So I think this is the same size as Kill Team. So that should just be, where's the fold? Yeah, here it is. So yeah, we've got a foldable board and some nice tokens. Good quality artwork, nice high resolution, lots of little detail with the skull, maybe too many skulls. Yeah, nice variation here as well between, you know, the steps and the stones. More of the same. Looking at the tokens a bit closer, I can stop the glare from the overhead lights to make the picture quality better. Yeah, these are nicely sized tokens. Good to see some variation in size as well as colour. Some good wound trackers. These are really important because one of the gameplay differences is that rather than try to adjust the stats a lot and make it kind of numbers heavy, Games Workshop have just given all the models just far more wounds. Now, I've got quite a lot to say on that, almost a little bit positive. I won't go into too much detail here, but one thing I do like is in games where it's very easy to kill people straight away because they've got like a low number of wounds and maybe there's a bit of volatility. One of the big problems is that the game really slows down because people are just really worried about making a small mistake. And if you make a small mistake, that could be game over because, you know, you've overextended yourself, you've moved half an inch too far, the guys come in, blatted you, game over. By having lots of wounds, you kind of mitigate that, and that means that people are prepared to play in a faster style, which I think is really important for this sort of game. You want to get many games done, you want to get them through quick. You don't want to sort of hang around agonizing over little movement choices. Right, what else have we got in the box here? So we have some faction cards. We have Battlefield cards deck. Victory cards. Deployment cards. Nice that they're all getting their own tokens. And some twist cards. And then also, yeah, so let's have a bit of a look at these in more detail. These are the cards, I think, that you can use in the game. Okay, so this is good. So this kind of tells you who your models are. I think especially for people who are new to this game. When I say new to this game, I mean like Games Workshop, Age of Sigmar in total, because obviously a game like this you want to be cross fan base. You don't want to just sell to your own guys, your own fans. You want to, you know, spread out and compete with some of those other skirmish games out there. So yeah, getting this sort of information is really good. I find it's actually one of the hardest things about picking up other games is actually kind of getting confused over who the models are, what their names are and things like that. So some universal abilities and then some info on the Chaos Beast as well. So two of those obviously, one for each player. So that's good. And then for random bases that have probably slipped out. More good artwork. Trying to sell their book. It's a good tie-in. I mean, I'm not really a big fan of it personally, but I can see why they do it, and I do think it's a good idea that if you make a game, also make some artwork, make a book, you know, create a wider view of everything. Games Workshop are very good at lore writing, so why not put all that talent to good use to make those additional sales and just help build the background up. And here we go, here's the rulebook and the assembly instructions. We'll come back to the rulebook. We'll just finish off the rest of the box. So, it's a nice game board. Yeah, so there's the rest of the bases. No one cares about that. Some dice for the game. So there's the 2 faction dice and the wild dice. Lots of random bags to put your bits in afterwards. And the ruler. So, what we'll do now is I'll put all of this back in the box off camera, and then we'll come back to take a look through the rulebook. Okay, so let's have a look at the rulebook, and I think initially a little bit surprised, I didn't quite clog this, that this is a softback book rather than a hardback one. Not sure how much of a difference that will make to a lot of people, but it's a little bit surprising that they've gone to all the quality elsewhere, and you would have thought they would have had a bit of a hardback book. So once again, we're not going to concentrate so much on the rules themselves. Plenty of other people will be covering that. We instead will be looking primarily at the artwork, layout and production quality. So I'm particularly interested if we're going to hear a bit more about some of the Chaos realms in the Age of Sigmar universe. People will know one of my main criticisms of this universe is that Games Workshop really haven't done enough to sort of spread the background, create more of the lore, give people a reason as to why they would be fighting, give them an identity with the faction that they have chosen. They've definitely improved since version 2 of Sigmar came out, but they've still got a long way to go. And yeah, once again I'll say I understand that Age of Sigmar is very new compared to the old Warhammer world, but it's been out, what, 5 years now? It should be much further ahead than they are, so I applaud them for what they've been doing, but we need to see more, and hopefully this will be the next step. So, glory or death. The call of the ever-chosen echoes out across the mortal realms, and the greatest champions of the dark gods stand ready to answer. Warbands from far and wide make the deadly pilgrimage to the 8 Points, the domain of Archaon, exalted Grand Marshal of the Apocalypse. Yeah, Archaon, bit of a bad boy he is, for sure. So, that's a good reason. Why are Chaos fighting? Because they are fighting. What else of a reason do Chaos need? So, yeah, up there trying to get some glory and see favour with the Chaos gods. I wonder if that will find its way into the lore. So, the 8 Points. So this is good, straight into the lore. I like it. Good job. Good artwork. A little bit monotone, but I think it gets the message across. Let's lay this a bit flatter, just so that the lights don't get too reflective. Yeah, unfortunately, that is going to be a bit bad there. So yeah, we'll keep it laid down. I think we can still see it well enough. Yeah, some really nice artwork here. Call of the Ever Chosen. Bonus cat. That's the thing, isn't it? You open a box and a cat appears. I really like the coloration on this one. Talking about the killing grounds. And a map. We have a map. So, the Screaming Coil, Forlorn Hope. So what are these? The Bloodwind Spoil is home to all manner of unspeakable horrors and long forgotten secrets. It is a stark and darkly imposing land. Not quite sure about the alliteration choice there. Dominated by towering mountain ranges and great plains, what few scattered settlements stand amidst the sorcerous wilds are populated by merciless killers sworn to the dark gods. Dotted across this deadly expanse are relics of the past, ancient ruins from the age of myth, long since fallen to the depredations of chaos. And that's really good as well. I like it when they talk about things like the age of myth, moving into the age of chaos, and and then finally the Age of Sigmar. I think one of the interesting things about the Warhammer, the old world lore, was it had a very good way of kind of going back in time, like that Tolkien-esque view of, you know, thousands of years before the current day, all of these apocalyptic events were happening. So I think it's really good that they mention that as much as possible, because there was quite a lot in the Age of Myth in terms of time that passed, and obviously not very much happened. So the more that they can reference things that happened back there, I think the more legitimacy they give themselves in the lore. Really like having this map. I think it really helps to flesh out, you know, picture's worth 1,000 words, and a map is just a different sort of picture. Nice info. I really like the silhouette. That's a really nice way of doing it. That is very foreboding. Reminds me of Ganon appearing in old Zelda video games. So yeah, we've got the imposing kind of view from the front. Here we've got a side view, which changes the tone of the picture quite a lot. Do we see the other ones as well? Yeah, we do. Great. Corvus Cabal. It's really interesting that they've changed the way round. It's light on dark rather than dark on light. That's a nice view as well, kind of slinking in the shadows. Cypher Lords, more acrobatic. The Unmade. Yeah, these guys are cool. They're very funky. I think probably the most unique thing that Games Workshop have done, in the sense that, well, for a long time, in the sense that it's got a very Eastern feel to it, in the way that they're made. It's kind of very kind of Eastern Asian type of demons. Is the vibe I kind of get from that, whereas lots of the others are very, like these guys, that's pure Mediterranean, right? Like the Phoenician helmet, that's very Greek, very Roman. And again, nothing wrong with that, but obviously when you have a games company that's based in the West and you have people that have had a culturally Western upbringing, those tend to be the sort of basis for where their imagination wanders. So yeah, quite nice to see something a little bit different on the Unmade. But we have some more. We have the Signs of the Flame and the Spire Tyrants as well. So we've seen 6, but it looks like we're getting 8, and that does make sense, doesn't it? 8 Chaos Warbands for 8 points. Some good view into some of the beasts as well. Nice introduction for them. And straight back into the artwork. The quality is excellent here. Nice resolution, nice feel to the pages. Not too glossy, but glossy enough to make the artwork stand out. I like that there's not very many words per page, that they're letting a lot of the artwork do the talking. You know, especially here, quick introduction down the side. The text and the pictures are kind of kept separate to each other, so they're not overlapping, with just the one kind of motto. And some nice icons as well. Yeah, really liking this. Yeah, this is phenomenal imagination going on here. And then, well, you can tell when you're looking at the models, because we've gone from very kind of fey, very wispy, into full saturation mode. Yeah, Games Workshop for a long time have known these saturated miniatures, the saturated colour schemes of the paint scheme of the miniature sells really well, particularly like the red around his collar brace there. And here we're into the catalogue section. One of the criticisms I'd say I had of some of the Games Workshop products that have been released over the last few months, well, maybe even from about this time last year, is some of the painting has not been up to their normal quality. They've gone all out on these ones. They are excellent. Still a very Games Workshop modern style, so I know it's not to everyone's liking, But yeah, they've definitely avoided some of the problems of some of the other product ranges that they've had recently. And then yeah, we're into the rules, nicely laid out. I like the AOS system of kind of breaking it up with these lines. I think that's aesthetically very pleasing, very easy to watch. Already we've got some good pictures helping to explain it. Nice iconography down the side. Let's see if that changes much as we go through. So yeah, this is all good. I'm not going to dwell on the rules too much. There's plenty out there looking at that. And here we are into the rune marks. There we go, that's probably the best. That's quite a lot of rune marks, isn't it? I mean, I applaud the ambition, but yeah, it's going to take a little bit to learn all of these. I don't know how important they are. I guess some of the things like the weapons are not going to be particularly important in the sense that they're going to be quite obvious. You know, everyone's going to see that this is a scythe, this is a ranged weapon. So it's not really too important to learn them because they're fairly obvious. Factions again probably aren't too important because you'll know your faction, that's all that really matters. Characteristics, you'll learn those quickly. But yeah, these ones I guess are the ones, because I guess these are abilities. So they're going to be really important. Yeah, there's not too many, is there? So there's 21, so that's not going to be too bad. Over we go, and so yeah, we're even looking at open play and narrative play, and then I guess there's some match play. Oh, got lucky with that turn of the page. Okay, into the campaign section. I think they're doing a good job of laying out each different section, so you know, this looks very different to the stuff that went before. So a good change in colour scheme to denote the different sections you're in. Different icons down the side here. And yeah, let's have some campaign rules. Lots of good ones of those. In fact, well, this is quite interesting. It looks like the campaign is actually making up the majority of the book. Which is good, because I think some of the other games are maybe a little bit guilty of being a bit too one-off-ish. And certainly when Necromunda first came out, the campaign system for there was not very good at all. It was definitely an afterthought, and I think a lot of people needed to work quite hard to balance that or make it more narrative. The Dominion campaign improved that, but what was that? That was almost a year later, wasn't it? Yeah, probably best part of a year later that came out. So yeah, hopefully these are up to scratch right from the off. You need that initial boost, and that's it. So summary of the rulebook. Surprised that it's a softback rather than a hardback, but otherwise excellent. Actually, maybe the lore is a bit light. Maybe I got carried away that I thought the lore was good because we were straight into it, but it probably could have done with a little bit more than just, I think, 3 or 4 pages and 1 map. Obviously they don't want to make the book too heavy, especially if you want to play this game. You're going to need to carry this around, carrying all the rules and all the lore around. Maybe these scenarios could have gone into a different book. Maybe a bit like Blackstone Fortress, you could have kind of had a few different books for different things depending on what you're interested in, so you don't need to bring the campaign book if you're only doing a one-off battle, but maybe you don't need to bring the scenario book if you've bought the cards. So yeah, a few little question marks around it, but overall very good, as is the entire box. So guys, I will leave it there, although I have just noticed actually, that's a bit horrible, isn't it? Look at that, that's genuinely frightening. Yeah, missed the interior box art there. But yeah, okay, so we'll leave it there. Thanks everyone for watching. See you next time. Until then, take care of yourselves.